There's two sets of page numbers. We're looking at the black page number. Top of page 10 is Hine Matov, how good it is for all of us to be together. Let's all sing together, shall we? Hine Matov after services, come up to me and tell me that maybe you'd like to join the choir, because that would be good. I thought you sounded really good. If there is a song sheet near you, a multi-page document, if you don't have one of your own, share, make a new friend. If you really want one of your own, raise your hand and the rabbi will hand one out to you, because we have a few extras up here. Just raise your hand. This is one of the many things that rabbis learn in school. I don't think he heard me say that. Let's sing song number 1. You sing with me. Who are on the road must have a code that you can live by. So let me hear you. Become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, their father's help did slowly go by. On your dreams, the one they fix, the one you know by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh, and know they fears that your elders grew wide, and so please help them with their youth. They seek the truth before they can die. Let's hear it. Teach your parents well,
children's hand will slowly go by and feed them on your dreams. The one they pick, the one you know by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh and know they love you.
Shalom Aleichem is on page 24 in the prayer book. Again, the black page numbers as we welcome in Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharim, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Yadadai Yadami, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedtem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
My name is Paul Kipnis. I'm one of the rabbis here at Congregation Or Ami. With Cantor Doug Kotler, we welcome all of you here for Shabbat services. We also welcome all of you who are worshiping with us via the live stream. Thank you to Bronze Productions for making that possible. And so we are here tonight trying to do something that should be easy. We're trying to throw open the synagogue doors, not just for the people who seem very much like us, but the people who we sometimes think aren't like us, but in God's eyes are totally like us. We're here tonight to remember that the Jewish community is Moses' people. In fact, we are a mosaic of Moses' people, each a different shade, color, hue, size, shape. Each has an important place in that mosaic that makes us wonderful and unique as a people. We're here to remember that 25% of the American Jewish community is non-Caucasian, that 10+% are LGBTQ plus and beyond, that we have so many young people, so many older people, so many people with challenges of one type or another, that this Jewish community, and even more so this congregation, welcomes everybody. And while we think of that up here and in here, sometimes we forget and don't see how we close doors. Mara Gad is an independent film and television producer who lives in Los Angeles. She's a Jewish woman of color. And she wrote this a couple of years back. She said, "As long as I lived here in California, I have never stepped foot in one of those West Coast synagogues because I'm afraid to do so. The thought of stepping foot into a shul where I am not known fills me with a fear and dread that is indescribable. And it is because of what has happened, almost without fail, each time I do. I walk in, and I am shown to the kitchen, stared at, really, whispered about, asked if I am in the right place. And on very special occasions, I am offered information about what happens in a synagogue. Judaism for Dummies, primer on a laminated card, if you will, designed to educate non-Jews about the basics of Judaism. All of this happens because I am of mixed race, and people assume that I am not Jewish. The funny thing is that I was born Jewish, and in spite of every possible obstacle and at times deep pain, I've always lived a deeply committed Jewish life. I attended Osrui, a Reformed Jewish summer camp, have been on the regional board for NIFTY, and I've been to Israel so many times, speak Hebrew, work in a Jewish communal setting, service setting, earning an MA from Baltimore Hebrew University so that I make it my life's work. I even considered being a rabbi. But none of that has ever mattered, for upon first glance, to many people, I don't look Jewish, and that is enough for the staring and the whispering to start. Recently, the pain was such that I called a dear friend who is a rabbi and asked her if one could be a Jew, but not be part of a Jewish community. During a tearful conversation, I told her I was done trying to find my place in the Jewish buildings and institutions that do not welcome me with open arms, that I could no longer consider myself part of a community that did not believe I was in the right place. And in the end, we agreed to keep talking. I promised her that I would not give up. Here's my prayer. I pray this will be the year when we will see one another as Torah teaches we are, each of us created B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God, and by my interpretation worthy of a smile and a warm welcome when we enter the building, no matter who we are. I pray that this will be the year that those of us who others seem to think don't look Jewish will not be shown to the kitchen or asked if we're in the right place. Instead, we'll simply be shown to a seat and wished well. I pray that this will be the year that I will find the courage to walk into a synagogue in my not-so-new city again and make it my home. My friends, I like to think that Ora Mi is beyond all that, and we are welcoming and wonderfully inclusive. And yet, in the past year and a half, a Jew from a Hispanic background and a Jew from Africa walked into this very synagogue at different times, and everybody wanted to figure out at different times, were they Jewish, how were they Jewish, where it came from. We have to open ourselves that if someone walks into this shul and sits down, makes it past security and the welcome and whatever, that they belong here, that they're welcome here. And this cantor and this rabbi and Rabbi Julia and our board teach that. So every year, thanks to our inclusion committee chaired by Steve Kellerman, we have a service where we celebrate inclusion and we invite people to push us a little bit to the next stage in opening our arms. Because this is a community where we recognize, it says on our ark, we are all part of Tselem Elohim, the image of God. Doesn't matter our skin color, our gender, our background, our abilities, our country of origin. We all belong here. Thank you to Nina Tryman, who's right in front of the bima here, interpreting the service. Thank you to our speakers who will introduce in a little bit. We're thrilled that you are here, Carolyn and Sierra. Welcome to Julie Bressler, our longtime faculty and rabbinic intern, long time. And welcome to all of you. You know, for us to move forward, we need to be a community. So I'm going to ask you to turn to the people in front of you, behind you, people you don't know, introduce yourself, and then we'll welcome and light the candles. We're not going to introduce everybody. Hey, baby.
Heveinu Shalom Alechem, Heveinu Shalom Alechem, Heveinu Shalom Alechem, Heveinu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Alechem, Heveinu Shalom Alechem, Heveinu Shalom Alechem, Heveinu Shalom Alechem, Heveinu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Alechem.
Page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav Vitzivanu lehadlik ner Vitzivanu lehadlik ner Vitzivanu lehadlik ner Shel
I'd like to invite to the Bima. I'd like to invite to the Bima Esty Diamond. And Gary. Esty and Gary. Tonight during our service, as we celebrate inclusion, we are going to have a number of people reading a number of prayers. Some they brought, some we found. They represent various parts of the beauty and diversity of our congregation. This prayer is number 10, the last page.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. When I was a little girl, I prayed to God. I prayed God would make me a boy because I knew I wasn't really a girl, not inside. I didn't want to keep pretending to be a girl because it was hard to pretend all the time. I knew I couldn't go on forever pretending like that. It made me very tired and sad. I wondered why God would want me to be tired and sad every day. But I tried hard not to disappoint God.
One morning, after praying like this for many years, I woke up and God had changed me. God changed my tiredness to courage. God gave me the courage to tell the truth. God gave me the courage to tell people that I wasn't a girl, even though it made some people laugh and some people get mad.
God's courage has made me happy. God's courage has taught me to love myself. God's courage lets me outside be like my inside. God's courage gives me the gift of honesty. God is truth.
I thank God for giving me the courage to tell the truth. I thank God for giving me the courage to be me.
Thank you, God, for creating the whole infinitely complex universe and for creating the infinitely complex me.
On page 28, we pray the Baruch Hu. It's a prayer that praises the Holy One, whose praise is due forever and ever. That praise is worthy when we create the world in which that praiseworthiness recognizes the blessed diversity that surrounds us of people and their lives. We'll sing Lilais, we'll sing the Hebrew, we'll sing both. Just sing and rise. 5 for Listen, for Shema.
If you're lost, you feel afraid, and you don't know what to say, then listen, listen to our God. Is there a question on your mind? Is the answer hard to find? Then listen, listen to our God. Listen with all your heart and soul, and with all of your mind. Write them, learn them, and teach them well, every morning and night. Close your eyes and listen. Quiet yourself, there's nothing to say. Stop all the chatter that gets in the way, and listen, listen to our God. When the wind and the thunder finally disappear, there's still a voice that you can hear if you listen, listen to our God. You can hear it from the top of the highest hill, or from the valley below. It can come from the edge of the universe. It can come from within your soul. Close your eyes and listen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod Malachuto Leolam Vaed. Listen, listen to our God. Listen, listen to our God.
You know, in the midst of those fires, as Rabbi Julia, Cantor Doug, and I and our whole staff put together this kids camp and adult hangout at D. Toledo High School, finding a place for people to gather in the midst of the flames that were flying and raging through our area. In the midst of running around working 21, 22-hour days, all of a sudden, one of my other interns, Alana, sat me down and said, "You have to prepare for the wedding." I said, "That's right," because there was a wedding that was happening. It was supposed to be in Malibu, for Laura and Lindsay. But it couldn't be in Malibu because the fires were threatening the whole area. So an all-in-one wedding where everything was taken care of in that one place, except I think for the DJ, had to move somewhere down to Santa Monica, and they had to bring in all the pieces, and they basically had 24 hours to get that together. With the help of friends and family, they did it. And so we ran down to, left the area and went down to the beach in Santa Monica. And as the sun was setting, smoky a little bit, you could smell still.
A little bit.
There was a sense of uplift that in the midst of the flames that threatened where they lived, that they didn't know what was going on with their home. Nonetheless, love conquers all. Love is stronger than the flames. And the wedding was beautiful. And my day and night and week was made as I watched them become one. So we invite up, her beloved is off on a trip somewhere, but I got Laura to be here, so come on up. Number 8.
All right, number 8. Won't You Celebrate With Me by Lucille Clifton. Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into? A kind of life I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman. What did I see to be except myself? I made it up, here on this bridge between starshine and clay. My one hand holding tight, my other hand come celebrate. With me that every day, something has tried to kill me and has failed.
Faces of God, a song number 2, was written by Cantor Rabbi Cantor Kyle Kotler, our Cantor Kotler's son, and Julie Silver. A beautiful song that captures what it's about.
And the stone that the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone, the chief cornerstone. We are the faces of God.
You and you.
We are the faces of God.
You and you.
We are the faces of God. You and you.
We are the faces of God.
You and you.
We are the faces of God.
Adonai beni uvencha.
We are the faces of God.
Adonai beni uvencha.
We are the faces of God.
And the stone that the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone, the chief cornerstone. We are the faces of God. We are the faces of God.
You and you.
We are the faces of God.
You and you. We are the faces of God. We are the faces of God.
We are
the beautiful faces. We are the faces of God, faces of God. We are the faces of God.
Deborah Swisher is one of our congregant family. Her husband and daughter are over there, and her daughter's in our school and coming on the retreat. You can come on over here. They can stand in front of the ark if you want. Come on over. She's also works in Hollywood as a writer and actor. No, just a writer now.
Now.
Okay. Though IMDb, you'll find some interesting, beautiful stuff. It is my honor and privilege to have her join us on the video.
Thanks. Thank you. Never try to edit down Oprah Winfrey's speeches. I want to just read this excerpt of an acceptance speech she got for her Leadership Academy Foundation's charity work, and she is my #1 role model, so I wanted to share this. This is what she said, getting this award. True philanthropy comes from living from the heart of yourself and giving what you have been given. How will you do that? How will you use the energy of your personality to serve that which is your soul's calling? I know this for sure. Any life, no matter how fantastic it is, how glorious it seems, how much attention you receive, how much square footage you have, any life and every life is enhanced by the sharing and the giving and the opening up of the heart space. Your life gets better when you can find a way to share it with someone else. And the real empowerment comes from when every person here that leaves this room today goes and makes a decision. Maybe that decision is that you're going to write a check and support some great charity today. But the true decision is, how will you use everything that you have been given to serve that which is greater than yourself? How will you use that to become truly, authentically empowered? Look, I love getting a great award. I love my Lifetime Achievement Awards. But the true reward is in the lives that you are able to touch and the people whom you know you've impacted. My beloved mentor, teacher, friend, mother, Maya Angelou, passed away in 2014. And I remember when I opened this school, which is, she's speaking of her Leadership Academy for Girls of South Africa, who it serves underprivileged girls. She said, I was so happy that I finally did it. It happened. We got it done and got through all the bureaucracy and all the stuff it takes to build a school from the ground up. And I said to Maya, oh my God, Maya, this is my legacy. And Maya said, you have no idea. You have no idea what your legacy is. Your legacy is every life you have touched, Oprah. Your legacy is every person you've met whose influence was felt by you. Every single person. It's every single person who's ever watched your show and decided that they were going to go back to school. Or watched a show and decided that I'm going to leave my husband. I am no longer going to be a victim of abuse. Every person who watched a show and said, because I saw this, I can now stand up for myself. Every person who gained a voice because of you, Oprah. You have no idea what your legacy is. Your legacy is every life that you touch. So as you sit here today, the decision is, how will you use yourself in such a way that your impact in your legacy will live beyond the doing? The great reward for me is knowing that what I'm doing and how I've done it and how I choose to live in the space that I call God, how in God I move and breathe and have my being, I try to move from the center of that is being able to literally touch the lives of other people.
Song number 5 on the song sheet.
We all laugh out loud, feel joy and pain, dream and wake, blood runs through our veins. We cry with our tears, love and grow, and deep inside each of us there is a soul. 'Cause we are all born in the image of God, farther than eyes can see. We are all born in the image of God, B'Tselem Elohim. Created from one holy design, each one's unique, no two of a kind. Different in color, voice and faith, yet we all belong to one human race. 'Cause we are all born in the image of God, farther than eyes can see. We are all born in the image of God, B'Tselem Elohim. For all of God's daughters and all of God's sons, may peace prevail between everyone. Across the world, miles far away, we are all linked as one sacred chain. We all can choose goodness to keep close at heart, even though oceans may set us apart. 'Cause we are all born in the image of God, farther than eyes can see. We are all born in the image of God, B'Tselem Elohim, B'Tselem Elohim, B'Tselem Elohim.
All of that was a foretaste, a forspice of what's to come, to learn, to experience. Come on up, Sierra. Michelle and I have been taking groups of our kids, groups of synagogue youth to Camp Newman, our 4-movement camp up usually in Santa Rosa. Since the fires destroyed it, we'll be rebuilding it, but right now we're in Vallejo at the Cal Maritime Academy, Cal State Maritime Academy. While we were there this summer, as the faculty dean, I interact with all of the staff, particularly the senior staff, and I watch them and watch the way they interact and learn from them. And I kept watching as I was working with the entering 12th graders, the CITs, watching how their CIT director, Sierra Mazzaros, interacted with them. I saw the compassion and kindness. I saw the strength. I sensed the wisdom emanating from her when she spoke to her youth as she helped them become the best they could be. And I went up to her one day at breakfast and I said, I want you to come down to our synagogue and tell us your story. And she looked at me and said, what story? I said, you are who you are, and I think you have things to teach us. She said, well, what can I say? And I said, the truth you've experienced. Because for us to be the best we can be, the most welcoming we can be as a community, we need to learn. So Sierra Mazaros is the nifty Central West Region Advisor for URJ Camp Newman. She was CIT Director last year. She is one of the phenomenal upcoming leaders in our reform movement. A Jewish woman, a teacher of youth. Powerful figure I give you, Sierra Mazaros.
Thank you. Wow, it's always amazing when people introduce you and you're like, wow, people really see that in me in the world, and I'm always amazed. So thank you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I am so grateful to be here with all of you, and thank you to Rabbi Paul and Rabbi Julia and Cantor Doug for inviting me to come speak with you. I am excited, a little bit nervous, completely honored to be able to talk with you about something that is so close to my heart. Me. My name is Sierra Mazaros, and before I go any further, I want to establish an understanding of a few fundamental realities which I believe are pivotal in understanding and contextualizing my story. 1. I am a proud member of the Black community. I am a proud member of the Jewish community, and I am incredibly proud to be a woman. 2. I am a light-skinned Black woman, and it is important for me to emphasize this point because it means that I am afforded a level of privilege that many Black people and people of color are not. However, it also means that I live in a liminal space, a space that is neither in nor out, but feels as if it exists somewhere else altogether. Essentially, I simultaneously belong and do not belong at any given time. 3. All of these truths operate in my life at once, impacting my sense of self and thus my perspective and experience of the world. All right, so now that we've laid the groundwork, I will attempt to bring you into the fold of understanding, a story still in progress, a story of what it's like to be this proud Jewish woman of color. As I mentioned, just in case you forgot, my name is Sierra. I currently am serving as the NIFTY Central West Regional Advisor for URJ Camp Newman. NIFTY is the Union of Reform Judaism's teen movement, and it has and continues to be an incredible gift to work with young people during such a decisive moment in the American narrative. I was born and raised in the Bay Area. My mother, Jeanette, is of Polish and Norwegian descent, the product of a North Dakotan mother and the son of a Jewish New York immigrant father. She was raised at Congregation Beth Am in Los Altos Hills, California, a small town in the heart of Silicon Valley. My mother grew up like most young, middle-class, and affluent people during the late 60s and 70s, spending most of her days riding her bike around town, getting into all kinds of silly mischief with her friends. She never thought much about her privilege, a fact that would deeply color her experience of the world, including her eventual decision to marry my father. Recently, we were on the phone together and she told me that she never gave much thought to what the experience of raising interracial children would be like, and what it might be like for my sister and I in the world. She loved my father. Her dad, while not completely opposed to the union, didn't think it was such a great idea. Nonetheless, she was committed. In 1990, she married my father, Rainey. He was born to an African-American mother and Caucasian father who would leave early on in his life. He grew up not knowing much about where his family came from. In the past year, however, a home DNA kit revealed that our African ancestors came from the western coast of Africa, most likely brought over on slave ships from the Congo during the pinnacle of the slave trade. This is a common story among African Americans. Questions of identity are central to my father's story, and while he might never admit to it, I've watched him grapple with what it means to be a black man, a black Jew, a husband, a father, a brother, a son, and a friend. And just as questions of identity are central to my father's story, they are integral to my own. My mom tells this story. She tells a lot of stories, but this one in particular sticks with me. One day, when I'm just a baby, we're in the grocery store, and another shopper looks into my stroller and says, "What is she?" Now, I am sure the person was nice enough, providing compliments to my adorableness because, well, I was adorable, and I have pictures to prove it. My mom, a bit unsure how to answer this question, looks up and says, "Well, she's not Duncan Hines." Duncan Hines is a cake mix for anybody who's confused. A person came up to a new mother in the store and asked her what her baby was. I mean, I'm impressed that my mom could come up with such a witty comeback so quickly. I can imagine that a question like that about your child is unsettling. I mean, it's a baby. Pretty straightforward, if you ask me. Now, every time I tell this story, people are appalled that someone would even think to ask such a question. But here's the thing. This was not the last time someone would ask me what I am. In fact, more often than I would care to admit, people have come up to me and asked me what I am. Half the time, not even introducing themselves before wondering out loud what I am made of. Most of the time, I wish I could make a witty comeback like my mother had to the question. But no matter how many times people look at me quizzically and ask me, "What are you?" I still answer, "I'm African American and Caucasian," because I know that regardless of what question they ask, this is the answer they are searching for. To be asked what you are is an incredibly uncomfortable and dehumanizing experience. Each time I answer the question, I feel alone and out of place. This question and this discomfort it creates have been a pervasive force in my life. Having to explain and justify the color of my skin over and over would ultimately lead me down a path of insecurity around what I look like to all people. And at a young age, I yearned for a story that was easier to tell. Pale eyes, or blue eyes, pale skin. A physical sign to the world, so that when I added to the complex narrative and told them I was Jewish, they wouldn't cock their head to the side and go, "Huh, didn't expect you to be Jewish." Or in Jewish spaces, "Which of your parents is Jewish?" Or my personal favorite, "So is your mother Jewish?" Once again, looking for an explanation or justification for the color of my skin. When you're young, you already feel like you don't fit. There are things happening in your head and your body that you have no control over. And for some, the fear that people will look at you strange can be debilitating. And even as an adult, we are all just looking for validation that we fit. Fit in our jobs, fit in our families, with our friends. When the color of your skin sets you apart in a way in which people cannot seem to figure you out, the feeling of constantly being out of place is incessant and follows you regardless of what space you are in. Not white enough to feel fully at home in white or Jewish spaces, not black enough to feel comfortable in black spaces. I grew up at Congregation Bethel, just like my mother did. And just like when my mother was growing up, the community was predominantly white. As the nifty CWR regional advisor, I often find myself walking the same hallways of the congregation's campus that I walked as a teenager, reflecting on what life was like then and what it's like now. I have loved being Jewish my whole life. It's always made sense to me, especially the way we so deeply value community and acts of loving kindness. And yet, despite that innate love, once I became bat mitzvah, I decided it was time to take a step back from my congregation. the only Jewish community I had at the time. I always felt out of place sitting in my Hebrew school and Sunday school classes, from the clothes I wore to the way my hair could rarely be contained, to the way the yellow gold tint of my skin stood out every minute of every day. It was often uncomfortable to enter a room of confused faces with my mother or grandmother by my side, because they also didn't look like me. My nose is broader, my curls coarser and wilder, my skin 2, 3, 4 shades darker and different than theirs. My two favorite women, and sometimes moving through the world with them was difficult, because I couldn't stop wondering whether I could ever truly belong in the world in which they moved. By high school, the "what are you" questions proposed by outsiders had infiltrated my heart and head so deeply that it became a question I asked myself. What are you, Sierra? Where do you fit, Sierra? You don't, Sierra. At some point, you'd have thought we'd gotten used to the glances and questions, gotten used to the, "Oh, is this your daughter?" in reference to my blonde high school friend joining us on an outing to the video rental store. You think by now we'd be used to it. The reality is that you never get used to it. Instead, you collect these moments and carry them with you as a reminder and reflection of your worth. You use the memories to create a narrative that argues you don't fit and that perhaps you never will. Eventually, I found my way back to the Jewish community, carving out a space in the youth work my synagogue was doing that felt honest to who I was. And today, I feel truly blessed that I've been able to surround myself with an incredibly welcoming and positive Jewish community, which I love, and which loves me. They don't ask me what I am, don't ask me to justify the way I think or feel or look. Instead, they pull up a seat at the table for me and say, "Join us." And when I think about the little girl I left behind on the bima all those years ago, I only wish she'd get to see what I see now. I'm still navigating the residual feelings of inadequacy that come with a lifetime of wondering where you belong. But I think the truth is, we all have our different versions of this story. And while I may not be able to comprehend the experience of living yours and the impact it's made in your life and how you see yourself, I understand the struggle to feel like you belong. It might be the great struggle of life. So you might be thinking, what's the point? Give me something I can do to make my community safer, so that our black and brown brothers and sisters, light or dark-skinned, can find a place of belonging here. How do we make all feel welcome in our holy community? Well, I continue to dissect and analyze this question over and over, always feeling as if I'm on the brink of some revelation to how to create understanding that runs so deep in all of us that we can all share and feel the lived experience of one another. I'd love to flip a switch and say, here is how we fix the problem. But if anything, I see my experience in the world as a multiracial Jewish individual as a representation of the deep-rooted cultural expectations and assumptions that make it incredibly difficult for us to truly blow our barn doors open and say, "Welcome all, sit here, belong here." When people don't look like us, we're still asking them to tell us what they're doing here. And often this comes from a place of curiosity. Especially as we seek to grow the diversity of our community, we're eager to point out those who represent that growth. We want to know what they're made of, where they come from, how did they find this place. We want them to tell us their story. But they don't owe it to us. In fact, it's our job to earn it. It is my firm belief that each of our stories are sacred and should be regarded with the utmost care and protection. When you decide to tell it, how you decide to tell it, are always up to you. People of color are faced with the question of who and what are you every day. And for centuries, the answer to that question has only resulted in larger barriers and roadblocks to the access of fundamental human rights. The color of your skin does not define your belonging in the Jewish community, and neither does the story that might come with it. What defines your belonging is your showing up, your participating, your identifying with the values that connect us as Jews. So where do we begin? From where I stand, I think it starts with recognizing the humanity in each of us. We start from the thing that makes us each the same. If we want our black and brown partners in this world to feel at home and safe in our communities, we cannot continue to ask them to justify their reasons for being there with, "What are you? What brought you here?" We must create space for each individual story to unfold. We have to build trust. And it starts with a handshake, eye contact, and wholehearted welcome. We are so happy to see you. Because I know, and you know, we always are. Thank you.
Thank you. We pray. Page 48.
Please rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Vekone Hakol וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה
Turn our prayer books to page 59. My friend Alex here became bar mitzvah not too long ago. But it was a long time after people told his parents what he wouldn't be able to do again and again. But when he walked in here, took one look, said, "Here's a kid. He'll be a bar mitzvah." And the process was fabulous. And the bar mitzvah was incredible. And he'll lead us in prayer now. Come on up, Alex. Page 59. We'll follow his...
God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for a world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth in which day by day sustains for all these and more. We offer thanks.
We continue praying silently the words on the page through page 63, either those on the pages or those in your heart. When you are finished, please be seated. Whenever we gather together, we sing a Misha Berach, a prayer for healing. Often we talk about the healing that we need when there's physical illness, when we're struggling with cancer or facing surgeries, lying in a hospital bed, or realizing that nothing in the hospital can help us anymore. We pray for those dealing with mental illness, those we see and those we don't, those who are pushed aside, and those who, though welcomed in, still struggle. We say prayers for those who are struggling spiritually as they try to find their place in a complex world, trying to find some stability when everything around them is shaking. And we say a prayer of healing for those who are struggling emotionally, as the pain that has been passed down from generation to generation, or from one incident that just won't let them move on, or from a series of slights that trap their soul. For all of them and all of us, we sing a prayer of healing. As is our tradition, I'll bring my hand around the room, and when it passes where you're sitting, we invite you to mention the names of those for whom you're asking for blessings of healing. Don't whisper, because you can't catch it. But say it aloud, because we support each other through the pain and the worry and the healing. Tonight, we ask for blessings of healing for
Sister Terry with friend Linda.
My mom Shirley Lisco. Our dad,
Ray Friedman.
My son,
friend Corey.
my son Justin.
My sister Francie, my aunt Judy.
My mom, Toby.
Our friend Debbie.
My cousin.
Sister Sandy.
Schneider.
Lillian Garner.
Immigrant children removed from their parents.
Ralph Perez.
My friend Jonathan.
Al Mansky.
Eddie Brown. Sherry Urena.
Annie.
My friend Sandy.
Stephen. Dan.
My friends Sam.
For all of them and all of us, we turn to page 253. Look at the indented words and we sing a prayer of healing together.
Avotenu mikor Abraham leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mikor Abraham lavotenu.
Each week, my writing partner, Rabbi Rachel Behrman from the East Coast, and I write a midrashic monologue. We try to voice those who have not had their voices shared from our ancient biblical tradition. This week we looked at this week's parashah, the Torah portion in which we read about the 70 elders who went with Moses up to the mountain as he then ascended to receive the 10 Commandments in the Torah. We know very little about most of them. So we did what rabbis always do. We imagined. We talked about Asif and Zima, 2 cousins of Moses. We imagined were intended to go up the mountain with him, but then didn't show up at the meeting. And when Moses went to find out why they didn't show up, thinking one of them was ill, they discovered that they had been disinvited by one of the judges Moses had appointed, who assumed that because they shared a love that was not understood by many there, that Moses really shouldn't have them join him, that God surely didn't want them. And as you read the Midrash we've given voice to, Moses goes right to the judge and to the council and says, I've seen the world. I've been through the fires and back. I was let go by my family. I was raised in a palace. I fled for my life. I've seen a bush that burned and wasn't consumed. I had the power course through me as God split the seas. I have an expansive view of life, and I recognize that the love of these 2 men, Asif and Zima, is a love filled with joy and God's blessing. And so they joined him on the mountain after all. The story you can read on Facebook or Midrashic Monologues, or send me an email, I'll tell you. Cantor Doug officiated a wedding of 2 congregants. We invite them to join us to read the prayer number 9. Alex Werner and Mike Resnick, longtime congregants.
As we gather in darkness or in light,
let us give thanks to our chosen families,
our beloveds whom we have traveled a lifetime to find,
our families of 2 or of 20, of 1 week or of a lifetime.
We gather with our beloveds in living rooms or in bars,
in synagogues or in mosques or in churches,
on Skype, on Twitter,
at the theater, in our memories, in our hopes, in the silence, and in the noise. We rejoice in the opportunity to care for and to openly love our beloveds,
to share our tears and our desires with them,
to listen to them and to have them hear us.
We celebrate our shared time as holy days.
For every time we commune with our beloveds, we make that time and space holy.
And for those who are alone, we wish them a sacred solitude.
For though they are alone, let them know they are important, they are connected, they are welcome. We celebrate each day we are together.
May we be present in times of darkness, yet know that the light that comes from loving one another.
May we do what we can to make sure everyone, the stranger and the beloved, is filled with dignity, with hope, and with peace.
Song number 3 on the song sheet.
You're a Jew, a rainbow Jew. You are out and allowed to be proud of it too. Think of all the shapes and sizes, shades and colors of creation. Now we are invited to join this congregation. You Be with me must be. You must do what you must do. You are a rainbow Jew. You're a Jew, a rainbow Jew. If you're straight, that's great. If you're not, that's great too. And if some of the traditions don't seem relevant today, now you have permission to throw them away. You can be gay, you can be Hamish too. You are a rainbow Jew. Used to be the Lord that dared not speak His name, but now you can get really married to someone whose gender's not the same. And there are so many more boxes you can check. You'll now see on the application form for congregation or AMI. You're a Jew, a rainbow Jew. Are you more Leslie Gore or more Lionel Blue? And whatever it says in the Torah, it'll say the opposite as well. So it's better to take it all with a pillar of NaCl. Let us pray, lesbian, gay, B and T for two. We are all rainbow Jews. When the tears start to fall at the Western Stone Wall, now you know what you can do. You can be a rainbow, be a rainbow, be a rainbow Jew, a rainbow Jew.
I was just checking out how much of the bio I can read and how much of the story she's going to tell. Rabbi Rachel Bat Or of JQ International could not be here with us tonight. She apologizes and sends her love. But when this year's inclusion service came around, I said, find us a speaker who will open our eyes and teach us. And she said, I have just the person. Carolyn Marie Weiss. Carolyn was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1954, has lived in LA since 1959. She's a graduate of Cal State Northridge and retired from a 32-year career with the city of Los Angeles back in 2013. The rest of her story is really great, but if I tell you, I'm going to take away her story. So I'm not going to. But we are thrilled, Carolyn, that you are here, that you and your wife are celebrating Shabbat with us, and we look forward to hearing your story. Carolyn.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me here, Rabbi Paul and Cantor Doug. And Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. So, it's an honor to be here. I am a member of JQ International's Speakers Bureau. If you've never heard of them, I encourage you to look them up online. They are a wonderful organization that helps Jewish, queer, youth, anyone within the LGBTQ plus umbrella, and they offer a safe space and a place for support and understanding that Jewish youth sometimes have difficulty finding. But one thing that I have learned both from Rabbi Rachel and from Rabbi Paul and some of you is that Congregation or AMI is one of those safe places, and I applaud you for everything that you've done to make folks within my community feel welcome. So thank you. I had never read the transgender prayer of Jill Weiss that's in the reading list today, but it's remarkable because so much of her story is similar to mine. As far back as age 6 or 7, I remember wanting more than anything else to be a girl. And of course, I was born a boy. And like Jill Weiss, I would go to bed at night and pray that God would turn me into a girl overnight, and I would wake up and I'd be a girl. And it never happened. And as I went through my youth, I found some important truths that kind of kept me from getting into a lot of trouble, and that is to keep those desires and thoughts to myself. My father was a conservative Jew. We didn't have an Orthodox home, but he went to synagogue most every Saturday. And I was expected to go to Hebrew school, and I did. I was expected to get bar mitzvahed, and I did. And I did all of the things that a young boy growing up are expected to do. I learned all about sports and hung out with the guys and told guy jokes and, you know, did all of that usual type stuff. But all the time, I would observe girls in school, and I would not particularly want to date them, although that was expected of me too. I wanted to be them. And so that's kind of tells you something about, you know, my struggles growing up. As I got older, into my teens, my 20s, I did date girls, women. And I always thought, you know, if I could date a few more women, maybe I could forget about this idea I had about being a girl. And if I could fall in love and get married, maybe I could, you know, forget about these thoughts I had about being a girl. Maybe if I grew facial hair, I could forget about thoughts of being a girl. So I did all of those things, and I did fall in love, and I did get married, and I did have a son, and I had a great life. And you know what? It actually worked for 20 plus years. I basically repressed all those thoughts about being a girl. But as most of my trans friends have found out, or will find out as they go through life, whatever you repress, it doesn't stay repressed as long as you would like it to. And my son got to be about 16, 17 years old, and I got to a point where I was so sad and so depressed and so miserable that I knew I had to do something about it, because I did not want to get into middle age and old age and perhaps die someday never having experienced the one thing I wanted more in life than anything else, and that was to be a woman. And so I gathered every bit of courage that I had at the age of, I guess, 55. And I had the dreaded conversation that all trans people who are married or have significant others want to have, and that is to tell my wife who I really was in here. And I feared losing her. I thought I would lose her, but as things turned out, I was wrong, and she was stronger than I gave her credit for. And so we are still together today. And my son, who was 17 at the time, and who I truly feared losing his love and respect, and he was tremendous. And after I came out to him, and I was sobbing and crying and telling him that I was worried that I would lose his love and respect, he gave me the biggest hug I'd ever got. And so we're a happy family, and I'm so grateful for that. And I decided, I was a couple of years away from retiring, and I decided to stick it out a little bit longer at work and retire on the job, because I wanted to try to do something to make the journey a little easier for the next city employee who came along and faced the same hurdles that I faced. And so after a year of planning and stressing and working with HR and some of my colleagues, we got all of the supervisors and managers that I work with. This was a department of some 250 people, but we got 85 people in a room like this, maybe a little smaller. And we had a wonderful trans woman come in and to give the Trans 101 training. And I told my story, much as I'm doing now. And I got to the part where I talked about coming out to my family. And I get, I always get emotional when I tell that story. So I took a break and I turned around from the dais to get a drink of water. And when I turned back around, everybody in the room was on their feet. And it was the most remarkable moment I had ever had. And so my transition was a success at work, and I stuck it out for 2 years. And wasn't perfect. There were some hiccups. There were a couple of people who didn't appreciate what I had done and didn't want someone like me in the workplace with them. But that was the rare exception. And so I retired and followed in the footsteps of the trans women who gave that training. And I became a trainer and an educator, and went about my task of educating the outside world. And it occurs to me that within the confines of this sacred space and the space that Rabbi Paul has created and the environment that he has created, the welcoming environment for people like myself, it isn't the need to talk about what you as a congregation can do to be more supportive, to be trans allies, is not as great as I had imagined before I got here, because you really are already trans allies. But I wanted to talk for a minute about what happens when all of you go out into the community outside of these walls and go through your lives. And maybe the spaces you're in out there are not going to be as inviting and supportive as it is within these walls. So I have a couple of things to impart to you. And some of these are going to be obvious, and maybe some of them won't be quite so obvious. Don't make assumptions about people. Kind of what Sierra was talking about not looking at somebody and making assumptions. Don't rely on stereotypes, especially anything you see on Facebook or Twitter or, Fox News. They're the stereotype headquarters of the world. Don't assume if you see somebody in the workplace, in the store, wherever, who you are pretty sure they're trans, maybe because of the way they look or what they're wearing or how they carry themselves. Don't go up to them and say, I recognize that you're trans and I'm an ally of yours. Might sound good, but probably not the right thing to do. Particularly for trans women, getting what's called clocked or discovered is one of our greatest fears, because that could lead to all kinds of unpleasant things happening. So if you see somebody you think might be trans, just, treat them like you would anyone else. If somebody tells you they're trans, which sometimes happens depending on the situation, don't assume they're gay or they're lesbian or they're bisexual, because gender, being trans and having a gender identity is not the same as sexual preference. Here's something that I learned early on, that a little memory thing that really explains the difference. Sexual preference involves who you want to go to bed with. Gender identity is who you want to go to bed as. So that's kind of an easy thing to remember. Trans people can and are, can be or are straight, gay, bisexual, asexual, whatever, and just like the rest of the world. This is going to be obvious, but there are some terms that are always hurtful, and I don't expect anyone in this room to use these terms, but you might hear people that you run into use these terms in your presence. Things like he, she, or she male, or tranny. If you hear or see someone saying or doing something that you believe is hurtful or cruel or mean or just wrong, if the situation allows, particularly for your safety, to correct them in a gentle way, and just tell them, what you just said is not right, it's not respectful, then if you do correct them, that makes you an ally. if you're talking to someone, try not to use gender-specific language when you discuss things like, you know, if you want to ask them, are they dating? Don't say, do you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend? Say, you know, do you have someone special in your life? That's kind of a nice way of putting it that doesn't put them on the spot. And I think most of all, and this obviously applies to everybody in this room, educate yourselves about the trans experience, about what it is that we face, because all of us, trans men, trans women, we face some real hardships as we go through our lives in the world. And it's important to know what those are, and it's important to know what you can do about it. And having this safe space is one of those things. Supporting organizations like JQI is one of those things that you can do. And just being open to others that maybe you don't know that much about them, but you can ask. And one of the things you can ask people if you aren't sure, somebody that you meet for the first time, is what pronouns do you prefer for us to use? You know, that's okay. That's perfectly all right to ask what pronouns you prefer. And I'd be happy to tell you, I prefer he, I'm sorry. It's been a long day. I prefer she and her. And I guess that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Weiss. It was lovely. I want to express gratitude for our wonderful musicians this evening. Sitting down on the far side of the room is Scott, who was playing piano for most of the evening, and Jared, and on the oboe, and Cheryl next to me, and Daryl Lieberstein, of course, on bass. And I, just a second, it's okay. We'll applaud all at the end. And expressing gratitude for this wonderful evening. Just the fact that we're able to do this in this time and place is really something very special. Sitting at the piano is Daniel Kaner. He is a Jubador from London. You don't know him, but you do know his music. I have been singing his songs for several years now. 2 years ago at Kol Nidre services, I sang his composition on Yom Kippur right before we all stood up and I sang Kol Nidre. And then this year at Rosh Hashanah services, right after Rabbi Julia's inspiring and wonderful sermon on appreciation and gratitude, I sang his song, Grateful. And I am grateful for Daniel's friendship and his talent, as his insightful compositions have added so much to our Or Ami community. He is on tour in the United States and just happens to have this night free and wanted to come and worship with us. And so that's why he is up here and why he sang Rainbow Jew just a few minutes ago. And he is going to sing another composition. And we're grateful that Daniel is with us in our little shul on the hill where the rain's coming down and the eyes in our head see the world spinning round. Here's Daniel's song, Grateful.
Is it just me, or do the days these days go by that much more quickly than they did? So many strange things going on, so many pieces of the puzzle that don't fit. I watch the sunset on the western sea. The light plays in the water, and it feels to me that I am blessed to be here, despite all the unrest and the way it may appear. I'm grateful for what I'm about to receive. Let me be grateful for all that I've achieved. And when I'm looking for a place to hide, when I feel broken inside, remind me, grateful. That's how I want to be. Just look around, it doesn't take that much to be confused or get upset. When the world seems upside down and what you see's not always what you get. There's been so many things I should have done, and so many others that I would not have done had I known then what I've learned today. But then again, I'd not have learned along the way to be grateful. When it's not quite how I imagine, I'll be grateful for the lights and sound and action when I can't tell wrong from right, when I'm wound up far too tight. Release me, grateful. That's how I want to be. How much you push, how much you're pulled, how much you wish, how much you wait, how much you pray. And when you don't get what you want, well, what you want's not what you needed anyway. Zoom out the camera lens and what do we see? The earth, the moon, the planets and the galaxy. And I am just a speck of dust, lost somewhere in my own universe. Grateful, be grateful for all and everything, and for all that's said and done, for all that's yet to come. Help me, grateful. That's how I want to be. Grateful, grateful, grateful.
supposed to tell you a couple of things. First of all, I'm so grateful for the music, for the stories, for the truths, for the poems. I'm most grateful for the openness of this community, that most of what happened here tonight is eye-opening but comfortable. Much of this would not happen without many committee meetings and many levels of approval in other synagogues in other parts of the Jewish community. So when you leave here, not yet, but in a little bit, be evangelical Jews, if you will, and spread the word. Not only that this is a place of welcoming and safety, but that we have to transform the whole Jewish community into a place like this. So, next week, we're going to have all these teenagers up on this bima, as yet again Rabbi Paul Kipnis finds a way not to give a sermon. And they're going to talk about those 16 kids, 17 kids, how they went back east to Washington, D.C. Simon and Ashley, Alexa, daughter of Minette and Simon, one of the kids. There any other parents who had a kid go to Litaken this year? Ah, that's right. Austin was there. Yes. And they went and they learned and they chose their issues and they wrote their speeches and they lobbied, and you're going to hear some of what they had to say and how it transformed them. Come, you will be amazed and you will find hope for the future. That's next week. I'm also supposed to tell you that we are having on, if you like to eat, and most of you do, on the 12th of February, our lecture series with Hebrew Union College, Dr. Leah Hockman is going to talk about Let's Eat Already, Jews and Food. Okay, it's already going to be good, and apparently there's going to be some food here too. But even without the food, her wisdom is overflowing and, as they say, delicious. Dr. Wendy Mogul, New York Times author, is going to be here speaking on deepening relationship with your teens. It's for people who have teens or grandparents who have teens, people who work with teens, people who wish they had teens again, and we'll be putting some up for adoption from parents who are done with their teens for a while. I want to let you know, remind you that Ora Mi 1 is coming up. That's our party of the century. Please come. That is the time that we ensure that all of this work with the teens, with the adults, from the fires and beyond, we can be a place that reaches out, that helps, because we're not always running after money, because there's a couple of times a year we do it. This is one of those times. If you have things that you can donate or get donated for our silent auction, that's great. If you could be a sponsor, there's a board out there. We're still looking for some people to help sponsor the event. And then please come. Even if you have tickets included with your congregational partnership, you need to let us know you're coming, because if you don't, you may show up and there won't be enough food. Yes, there are. We're Jews. We have enough food. But if you don't come to the lecture, you'll find out why. But if you, we would hate to order food and have to pay for it when you're not coming that evening also. I'd like to take a moment to introduce an incredible part of our Ora Mi staff team, Laurie Tragan-Boykoff, the one who transformed a little program into the huge, life-changing mitzvah day that makes 500 bags for kids going into foster care and guides us through all sorts of other social action programs. Tell us a little about what's coming up.
Hello.
Hi, Lori.
I have just one word for you tonight. Socks.
Socks. Okay.
Socks. Do you ever think about socks? You get up, you put them on your feet. What?
Obviously.
They feel good. They make your shoes feel better on you. Your shoes don't rub. They're warm. We don't think about it, but there are thousands of people that think about it a lot. It is the most requested item among those who face the challenge of homelessness. The most requested item. People think, of donating all kinds of things, but do they think of socks? Do they think of underwear? not so much. We have a box in the lobby. Our goal is to collect 300 pairs of new socks, any age, any color. They will be donated to a program that services beautifully those who do not have shelter. Please go to Target this weekend, buy lots and lots of socks, fill up the box out in the lobby. The other thing I want to tell you about...
You want these? Or
Oh, perfect. Yeah, thank you.
New socks? New socks.
They need to be new in the original packaging.
Okay. We appreciate your enthusiasm, Rabbi, but yeah, we need new ones.
The flyer is available in the lobby. A lot of you have already received it in the mail. Take one home just as a reminder. The other program that I wanted to tell you about that we are so excited about, Sunday, February 24th, happens to be here on the other side of the flyer, Pay It Forward. We will have here in the synagogue, in the sanctuary, many, many wonderful and unique groups that serve those with challenges in the community, all kinds of challenges. They will be here to talk to us, to recruit volunteers. We will also have areas all over the synagogue where we will be creating items, hands-on items needed by these various groups. It's for kids. The kids go out of their mind at this event. It is for adults. It is for young, for old, for everyone involved. We welcome you on February 24th to join us for an experiential event, a learning event, an exciting, fun event, and I hope that you will decide to be there. And that's that flyer. Thank you.
One last thank you. We want to thank our CPC committee, our program committee, for putting together the delicious dinner beforehand. Thank you to Laurie Kellerman and Brooke Pra, our co-chairs, to Star Barnbaum, Marla Landis, Sharon Goldberg, Bonnie Germain, and Nina Tryman. Did I forget anyone this time? Who put this all together. Thank you. It was delicious. We appreciate it. Thank you to all of you who came here. Let's turn in our prayer books to page 294 for Kaddish, 294. You know, when we stand up here and we talk about inclusion and diversity, we stand on the shoulders of all those who fought these battles for embracing inclusion, acceptance, not tolerance, but full embracing. And we also remember all those of our loved ones who had died in this season and in years past. As I bring my hand around the room, I invite you to mention their names and relationship to you aloud, those you are remembering at this time of Kaddish. Tonight we remember.
Neely Lisco, my dad.
Irving Cassover, my grandfather. Fred Rockers,
Stuart Winkle, Harry Phillips, Melvin Garner, Ben Sanders.
Adam Cole, son of our friend.
Peter Mayer, my father, and Reggie Mayer, my mother. Ben Sanders.
Essie, my mother.
May their memories all be for blessing as we turn to page 294. And as one community, as is our tradition, we rise as together we say, Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divera chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalau v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam ulolmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha brichu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael imru amen. Oseh shalom imramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael imru amen. May the one who makes peace in the high heavens bring peace to us, to all Israel and all the world, as we say together, amen. Take your prayer books, put them on the seat behind you. If you're comfortable, put your arms around the people next to you. We say a special thank you to Sierra, to Carolyn, for sharing your stories, for teaching us, making us understand, opening our eyes. Thank you to all who spoke and led, to our musicians. We close up. And as Alex stands with me, I'll give you the Hebrew, then the English. We sing together. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu.
L'shalom.
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 V'ha'amidenu shomreinu.
V'ha'amidenu shomreinu.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Ufros aleinu. Sukat shlomecha. Ufros aleinu. Sukat shlomecha. Amen. He was way shorter a long time. Shelter us beneath thy wings. Oh Adonai.
Oh Adonai.
Guard us from all harmful things.
Guide us from all harmful things.
Oh Adonai.
Keep
us safe throughout the night.
Keep us safe throughout the night.
Till we wake with morning's light.
Till we meet the morning's
Teach
light.
us God wrong from right.
Teach us God wrong from right.
Oh Adonai. About acceptance, and it's not about even inclusion or embracing. It's not something we do because we're good people or ethical people. It's right up there on the ark. It says we're all created b'tselem Elohim, in the image of God. And so if we don't embrace everyone, particularly in the Jewish community, particularly Jews and Jewish families, then we are defying the central idea in all of Torah. So what we did tonight is important, but don't clap and pat yourselves on the back. We're just hearing what we need to hear. Now let's make sure we go out there and make the world into a world that reflects these values. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Steve Kellman, for putting this together. Everybody, we'll see you out in the foyer where we will have some Kiddush and Motzi.